On our roads today, violations are common. From minor infractions to dangerous habits, many drivers break traffic laws daily. And often, the consequences is simple, a fine. But is paying money enough to change behavior? Or are we missing something deep?
Welcome to Road Matters, your weekly guide to safer road. Our topic for today is beyond the fines. In Nigeria, most traffic violations are punished by monetary fines. But let's ask ourselves a serious question. Do monetary fines really correct drivers from bad behavior? Do drivers consider monetary fine as cost of driving? Today, on this episode of Road Matters, we shall explore punishment beyond monetary fines. My name is Sufyan Muhammad. Do stay with us. We have a report put together by Wasiyu Alabi from NTA Oshobo as a backgrounder for our topic of discussion. Let's see the report.
In every climb, road safety remains a shared responsibility. In light of this, compliance with traffic regulations is not about avoiding penalties but about saving lives. Traffic violations such as overspeeding, overloading, dangerous overtaking, and others are daily occurrence on Nigerian roads. While many road offenders are expected to pay a fine and move on, authorities say the consequences go far beyond that. For most motorists, the expectation is simple: pay fine and continue the journey. Fine, in its general term, is the monetary payment or sum required to pay because offense is committed. A fine is meant to punish wrongdoings and discourage future offenses. However, enforcement agencies insist that fines are only a fraction of the penalties. The FRSC says offenders risk far reaching sanctions.
We go um, on mobile court programs, where we have the magistrate from each of the states that we set up with the other sister agencies, that we apprehend the offender and put them to the court, that is traffic court, and the judgment is given fines. Some of them are even sent to jail or reprimand at the prison custody. The license endorsement, that is the point penalties that we give to drivers. That one has not fully taken off, but the time is coming that penalty points, will now be used on our driver's license. Once you are caught and they know that you are a serious offender, there's a penalty point that they put on your license, so that they will know that this is what you have done, and such thing will be able to enable us to track serial offenders each time that they are caught.
Traffic offenses also attract other punitive measures.
When you look at the driver, if he has a valid particulars and a valid driver license, we collect the original particulars of his vehicle and the original driver license from him, and we now allow him to go. We now tell him maybe to come after a month to come and collect that original drivers and the particulars from us. And we issue a note to him that this also driver committed also offence. That is the reason why we seize his driver license and his motor vehicle particulars for a month or 2 months before you can come and collect it. When you look at the driver and we discover that the way he behaves is not normal, we now issue a note, handwriting note to him, that he should go to psychiatric hospital for brain test, that he should bring the report to us that is normal before we can allow him to drive on the road.
Vehicle impoundment is another one we do. We are not impounding the vehicle to do anything with it, but for the members of the public or the drivers that are caught in traffic violation to learn their lesson. The fine is just like a carrot and stick to just warn them that don't do this again, don't do this again, don't do this again. So that when next you're on the road, you comply with the traffic laws.
To reduce violations, authorities are emphasizing strongly on education and orientation.
We have mandatory public education for offenders, that where we put them for crash videos and photo exposure for them to see accident scenes. You see, the public education was actually designed for us to get closer to the commuters.
As enforcement intensifies, the message is clear. Traffic laws are not optional.
On the show today, we have the National Coordinator of Special Marshal and we have a legal practitioner. The duo will take us through the program. Stay with us.
Growing up as a child, I was trained by then VIOs. I remember vividly well that a VIO took me on a driving test. Then the driver's license was on a small booklet that you open from page to page. Every year you go there, they open the next page and then sign in that you have actually registered. That was sometimes around 1982. That was when I got my first license. And then he took me down a hill when my father told him I was good in driving and I can drive. And then after all the necessary tests, VIO took me on a driving test. And then he took me down a slope. And then don't forget, it was push gear. This normal selecting gear 1, 2, 3 for a Peugeot. And then we went down the slope, we turned. How good are you if you're on the slope and then there are vehicles coming, you needed to stop and wait for those vehicles to pass before you move. So I had to go through all that test. At the supervision of a VIO, until it was confirmed that I was good, he now brought me back to the office and said, look, you are good to have a driver's license. That was how I got my driver's license. But today, the reverse is the case. Today, people wake up, you see a very big L behind their vehicle, and they're already driving. No tutelage, no learning process, nothing. Even the driving schools themselves, people go to pay for the driving schools without going to those schools to be trained. All they needed to do is to pass through certain process and then get driver's license. And that is what the FRSC is fighting against seriously. FRSC is doing everything possible to correct all those menaces. So, in comparison, the driving culture today is a menace, I must say, compared to what it was in those days. And it has to do with attitude, Nigerian attitude. I don't know where we are copying this from. So a lot of burden, a lot of job is on the federal road safety. The road safety is trying to bring us back to the old culture, to understand that as you are driving, you're not just driving for yourself, you are driving for the other person. You're not just driving your vehicle, you are driving all the vehicles on the road at the same time. So these are the things we are doing. We are doing a lot of orientation. We are doing a lot of training. That is why we go from establishment to establishment to train drivers, to make them understand that there are rules on the road. You don't just drive because that is the road. I know how to engage the gear. Let me go. That is driving. No, it's not driving. There are things you need to know and you need to do part time in the course of driving. So I would say seriously that we are doing so much, but a lot more need to be done to ensure that the driving culture and attitude change. Do people even know that there are traffic laws? Do they even know that there are traffic rules? The laws are everywhere. Very evident. The rules are everywhere. Very glaring. But people don't read. We don't have the culture of reading again. We don't have the culture of reading signs. There are things we call road furnitures. If you are driving from here to Cuba, for instance, you will see road signs. You will see markings. Even the ones on the road, the white lines, the dotted lines, and or whatnot. All these are signs. They're not just there for decoration. They are there for a purpose. But do people bother? So there are traffic rules and regulations. We have regulation rules where you have all the necessary rules embedded in those books. In fact, in road safety office, once you come and you need to obtain a driver's license, you are taken through certain processes. Once those processes are completed, they are given a traffic rule, which you take back home. You go through those processes, you read them, you are supposed to make them part of you and understand every science. But as soon as they leave there and they get driver's license, they drop it. So the laws, also talking about the laws, there are punishments for every traffic offenses. There are punishments for every rules you break on the road. But don't forget, road safety is established to ensure that our road is safe of accidents. Our road is safe of menace. That is why we say safer roads, fuller lives. Lives are very important to us. So we don't really go out to make punishments to offenders. That is not basically our reasons. But our reasons is to give orientation to motorists for them to know that their lives is very important and the lives of every other road users are very important. But once the driver becomes recalcitrant and fails to abide himself within the habits of the law that implement punishments for such erring drivers. Sometimes those of you out there, you think what we do alone is just book. You've asked somebody to go and pay a fine. You are not putting on your seat belts, go and pay 3,000. No, you have done dangerous driving, go and pay 10,000. No, you don't have, it's beyond that. Let me tell you one of the things we do. Once a vehicle is arrested for a traffic offense, and we discover that that offense is grievous, whatever you are going to pay, we're not revenue generation department. We are not. Those payments are offenses. They are punishment, and it goes directly into the government purse. It does not go to road safety. So that is not our basic work. But once you bring an offender to the office, sometimes we keep an offender. We take them through accidents that have happened in the time past. We play the videos. We try to make them go through things that have happened to people who have behaved the same way they have behaved. In fact, some of them end up crying. Some of them on their own make vows and say, God forbid, I won't do what I have done again. We try to make them see reasons why they need to be cultured when they drive. Otherwise, they could find themselves in the same shoe. Those that have gone beyond them have found themselves. So their emotions, you see people with emotions. We talk to their conscience. We make them see that it is not just about driving. I know how to speed. I know how to do this. But it goes beyond that. The life you save, today, could be the person that will save this country tomorrow or a better person in society tomorrow. So these are things we do beyond just the normal fine that we give to people when you err.
Some road violations have become so common, many drivers no longer see them as wrong. Driving one way, ignoring zebra crossings, overloading vehicles, not indicating, using phones while driving.
Sometimes we put up what we call mobile calls. These mobile calls are there to check the excesses of this kind of drivers, the constant drivers are talking about. There are times that you stop a vehicle that have committed a driver that have committed traffic infringements. You ask for driver's license. Rather than give you his driver's license, he gives you an offense ticket. That means he committed an offense yesterday. He has been booked. He has not finished paying for that. He has committed another offense. Do you understand? That is the kind of drivers we are talking about. This we see almost every now and then. Such drivers, we do not just go ahead to give them another ticket. We bring them back to the office. When you talk about emotional evaluation, we do that. People call it psychiatric test, but it's not psychiatric test. It's what we call emotional evaluation. Now, sometimes that's why I keep talking about emotions. So most times we need to evaluate your emotions. Are you even emotionally stable to drive? What are you doing behind the wheel? You can't even be behind wheel if you're not licensed in the first place. You must be licensed to drive before you drive. Talking about even reviewing that, withdrawing people's license. It's not enough to withdraw a license. You can withdraw my license, but you can't withdraw the fact that I know how to drive. You won't be there with me when I pick the car and start driving. So going beyond withdrawing my license, What can we do to make sure that the person is not found behind the wheel until that license is restored? The present commercial is doing so much with regards to that. We are doing a lot of reviews, and these reviews are going on based on what we see on daily basis to go in tandem with what is happening in the international world. Today, as we speak, if you drive through a part and you commit an offense and your driver's license is picked, we can trace you down to your house.
Fines are not enough to correct any ills at all in the society. And so a cross combination of fines and other punitive measures are encouraged by every system of governance world over for correction of societal ills. And so simplicity fines are not enough. Crimes are classified depending on the severity of the offense. We have felony, we have misdemeanor, and so on and so forth. There are some fines, there are some offenses, penalties of offenses that requires subjection to some psychological check. There are others that requires absolute and total commission to correctional centers that you are not given options. And there are some that gives the option of non-committal or fines. So in Nigerian legal system, criminal justice system, yes, there are such provisions. The major reason for enacting laws is for the general good, peace, and orderliness of governance. It is also to regulate citizens' behavior, encourage economic development, and also promote social stability. Having said that, it appears, like you rightly said, most of the consequences for road traffic offenses have become fines. Of course, that has to be traced to our history as a country. It appears to me also that that is the only mode of corrections that most of our citizens understand. In other climes, like in Canada, in US, for instance, where we have for our citizens obeying strictly the rules of the road, it is even more consequential to withdraw the license, the driver's license of a citizen than asking a citizen to go to the prison or even subjecting such citizen to one or two. Because the license has a lot of other functions, including your access to certain social facilities within the country. So such consequences for every road user elsewhere is the thought of withdrawal alone is enough to guide the behavior of such citizens. But in our country, the processes, first of all, for acquiring driver's license is clearly stated in the Road Traffic Act. One, you must go to driving school. Two, you must subject yourself to psychological analysis. But I can tell you, as a fact, that if you want to acquire a driver's license today, you do not need to go to a driving school. You do not even know where any psychology or any psychological facility is for you to assess and then be checked. You just stay in your office, you make a call, and the next second you have your driver's license. So that process alone encourages people who cut corners to abuse all the ethics and norms of road users in Nigeria. So there are basically so many other types of punishment that are even more than fines, which we in this country have not really adopted. And I find it curious that in the Road Traffic Act, there is none in it. It appears as if every other thing, you are either committed to the nearest prison, you are either asked to pay XYZ amount of money, or your car is impounded, but there's no provision for suspension of driver's license, withdrawal of access to Nigerian roads as it is done elsewhere. There's no such provision. That tells the history of the kind of drivers we have in Nigeria, and it is curious. There should be strict adherence. In fact, government should establish social facilities such as psychological centers for those who might be suspected of having taken substances, narcotic substances. There should be such establishment of facilities every 5 kilometers away. And the Federal Road Safety Commission, the Vehicle Inspectorate officers, and others should be properly trained themselves because they can become the clog on the wheel of this effectiveness of this review we are talking about. Secondly, we should also encourage community services. Those who violate road traffic should not just be judged by the function of what they have done. They should be subjected to an environment where they can also render certain services to the community by sweeping, by cutting the grasses, by tendering the flowers on the street, by also watching over flocks if the country decide to go on the way of animal husbandry, effective animal husbandry. I mean, such community services, or even going to the hospitals to look after sick patients who have nobody to look after, or feeding prisoners for a week, for some days, or even months. You are not a prisoner yourself, but you are there to feed those who have been confined to that facility. So such kind of community services should be encouraged. Then those institutions that are empowered by law to give out driver's licenses need to be checked. Corruption upon corruption has given birth to severe corruption. And that is where we find ourselves as a country, where institutions that are supposed to serve as a gamut of control for whatever the government of the day wants to implement suddenly find themselves being the major clog in the effective implementation of such leakages that the government intend to block. So those institutions themselves need to be the kind of people they employ. We find that, I'm sorry to say, that most of the time the people who stay on the road working as road safety officials, vehicle inspectorate officials, they themselves are threat to the society. Even from the way they approach road users, they are more like people who are acting under the influence of a substance. So the system should check them. We should have well-trained, very polished personnel of this institution on the road approaching road users with decorum, with respect. And I think in a way that could also add to the psychological strength of both road users and the officers who are on the road. What the government needs to do is to consistently maintain an avenue of public enlightenment, conscientize the people, and ensure that they take that as part of their culture. It may take a while, but it is feasible. A few years ago, you wouldn't see drivers using seat belts. It wasn't an offense for many people who lived earlier than the period where it became a crime for anybody to drive without a seatbelt. You see many people driving without seatbelt, and all of a sudden, government came up and said, "Look, if you are driving without seatbelt, there is XYZ punishment for that." Today, the moment you pick any commuter or the moment a driver takes a driver's seat in a car, the first thing that comes to his or her mind is, let me strap my belt because if I am caught, I'll be asked to pay XYZ. So it's a culture that suddenly has become a way of life for most commuters and drivers. And so every other review that is included in our current Road Traffic Punitive Act will be effectively applied, and it is feasible. And I agree that because it is a global village, what is obtainable elsewhere in the ID climes should also be obtainable here. After all, many Nigerians still go to that climb, drive there, and come back to this country. So I think it is very feasible for all these reviews, once it is applied and the government engages the citizen through consistent public enlightenment like you are doing right now, and then talking to schools, particularly secondary schools, the university, and the road traffic union. We have what we call the National Union of Road Traffic Workers or something like that. Engage them. They are affiliate unions of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Engage them. And I think with that kind of activity from the government and non-governmental organizations, it can become part of our culture, and then we'll see a new sanity on our roads.
Road safety is not just about punishment, it is about changing behavior. If violations continue despite the fines, perhaps we shall rethink our approach. Thank you for staying with us. Keep edit with us next week, same time. I remain Sufyan Muhammad. Bye bye for now.